All right. Hey, everybody. Drew Allen, the Millennial Minister of Truth here. Thanks for joining me today. I've got an amazing first guest who I'll introduce in just a second. But first, look, we're going to dive into this obvious, coordinated effort that's being pushed by a tight network of people. Obviously, a lot of their names from Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and others. These are, so-called former Trump supporters. They want to claim the MAGA mantle for themselves, despite the fact that they'd be nowhere without Donald Trump's support, of course. And they're pushing this anti-Semitic, anti-Israel smear to insulate the political left. Of course, they're using the Charlie Kirk assassination to basically try and tear apart MAGA and help Democrats win again. And the vehicle is that poisonous narrative that Israel did it, which, of course, makes no sense. We'll get into it in a minute. I'll break it down again. But, the narrative is supposedly that, Israel's behind everything, including the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And so, Joe Kent is the latest individual. He resigned as the director of the National Counterterrorism Center just recently, and he's the latest voice to join the ranks of the disgraced. So to join me first is Heidi St. John. I've known her for a little while. She has a very impressive resume. She's a best-selling author, a speaker. She is a homeschooling mother of 7 and a former congressional candidate from Washington State. And Heidi, of course, ran against Joe Kent in the Republican primary for Washington's 3rd congressional district back in 2022. And after Joe Kent won the primary, she graciously publicly backed him in the general election to help unify Republicans against the Democrat. And, of course, Joe Kent lost that election. But she's known Joe Kent for years on the campaign trail. And today we're going to talk about that relationship and what she's learned to get her observations. So without further ado, Heidi, I want to thank you for being with me. First off, why don't we just start broad in general? I mean, what is your observation about what's going on here with this effort to really just, smear Israel? I mean, it's almost like Trump-Russia collusion, except, Israel and the Jews are now, the target of this obvious coordinated effort.
Well, it's almost biblical. You'd say that it's biblical. The Bible says that all the nations of the world basically are going to turn against Israel in the end. And I think we're living in those days. Obviously the Bible says that we don't know the exact day, but we know the seasons. And I think the signs are everywhere. This is the spirit of the age. It's a spiritual warfare. It's a spiritual warfare 101. We know, those of us who know God, that this is what we can expect as Christians. The tearing apart, though, that's happening over Israel, I never thought I would live to see this. Conservatives have for generations, and all of my life at least, we have been united in the understanding that Israel is our friend and our greatest ally in the Middle East. And all of a sudden, we've got people like Nick Fuentes, who is a raging anti-Semite, being platformed by people like Tucker Carlson. And if you do a little bit of digging, this goes back quite a ways. And so I think a lot of people just now waking up to it. Nick Fuentes, of course, was part of the campaign rhetoric that got Joe Kent into trouble when he was running for Congress. This didn't just happen, is what I'm trying to say. This has been brewing for a long time, but the Republican Party has not been, the true conservatives. I think there are people inside the Republican Party who are not true conservatives, who are trying to split it and break it apart from the inside out. I would count Joe Kent among those people. But we've got to do a better job of sniffing out the enemy. There are wolves in the henhouse. And Israel is just part of a greater narrative to destroy America. That's how I see it.
Well, let me just bring this up. Here's Joe Kent not too long ago here. This is from 2020. And he's praising Trump. Obviously, Trump's restraint shows that he wants to deal with Iran. His red line is American loss of life and Iranian nuke development. But what's more interesting is his follow-up response, which is that he personally thinks we should have crushed their ballistic and nuke capacity. But Trump has a plan. He has definitely earned the confidence of any clear-eyed observer. So in 2020, obviously, he didn't think Trump went far enough. He's obviously acknowledging that. And we know this to be true now because the Iranians, we just discovered, of course, have ballistic missiles that can hit London and Paris, which is far beyond what they were supposed to have. So I want to get back to your time campaigning against Joe Kent and everything else. That was a very heated primary, as it should be and must be. in the vetting process. But you ran against and then later campaigned with Joe Kent in the 3rd District in Washington. I mean, what raised red flags for you about, his consistency or loyalty or true beliefs, lack of consistency maybe?
Well, my consistency, my issue began with him in the very, very beginning when I first met him it was either January or February of 2021, right before I announced my run for Congress, right before he announced his. We met for coffee at a little coffee shop in Battleground, Washington. And I wanted to find out about the guy. I was like, tell me who you are. His story is compelling. Of course, that's what he has used, frankly, to get the support of the Republican Party. The story that his wife was killed by a suicide bomber in ISIS suicide bomber over in Syria. And that's actually when President Trump met him. President Trump met him at the Dover Air Force Base when Joe Kent had gone to receive his wife Shannon's body. And so President Trump has a huge heart, as you well know, for our military, and he wanted to honor Joe Kent. And that's worthy of our honor. Obviously paid the most, the biggest sacrifice. But I met Joe. I did not know where he was from. I'd never heard of him before. And it's a pretty big deal for somebody to run for Congress. Usually when someone runs for Congress, they've been in an area for a really long time. And I didn't know who Joe was. And he said he had recently moved into the area from Portland. Well, I can't hold that against the guy. Portland's only 15 minutes from Vancouver, Washington, just across the river. But I'm from Portland. I was born in Portland. It's probably important for people to know, but I've lived in this area now for 25 years. And finally, I was like, hey, Joe, why don't you sit this one out? I'll run this race, and then I'll happy to hand the baton off to you. He didn't want to do that. So we ended up both just jumping into the race. And shortly after we started campaigning at different events together, I started hearing him spouting rhetoric that was wildly out of step with what I would consider to be traditional conservative values. He wanted, for example, $10,000 per child tax credits. I'll send you all this stuff. I've got him on video, right? $10,000 per child tax credits. He was complaining over and over again about the rich not paying their fair share, called himself a working stiff. And so to me, that's Marxist talk right there, right? This idea that somehow I'm a victim of the system and the rich and the oligarchy. He kept referring to the oligarchy. And I'm like, good night. I've been a conservative for a really long time. I'm at least 10 years older than Joe Kent. I've never heard a committed conservative talk like that. Well, I was asked about in June of that same year to go to meet with President Trump in New Jersey. So I flew out there to his golf club in New Jersey. I met with him. It was a very interesting discussion. As it turned out, Joe Kent's campaign team, remember, Joe used to work for the CIA. And Joe Kent's team lifted the information of another Heidi St. John, who was living in Washington State's 3rd Congressional District, and passed her information off to President Trump as if it were me. And so when I met with President Trump, he started off by asking me why I didn't pay my federal taxes, why I had been divorced, why I was in marriage counseling. None of these things are true. I found out later. Yeah, Joe Kent gave him the wrong information on purpose. He's been lying to President Trump for years and misrepresenting himself and misrepresenting me, frankly. And so I had to defend myself against those allegations. And I finally told the president, sir, I don't know where you're getting these. The only thing in that dossier that he read about me that was true was that I eviscerated him in a 2015 Facebook post. I didn't like the president when he came down that golden escalator. I was like, no way, dude. I'm a Ben Carson girl. And the president read that post back to me. Did you think, dude, that in a million years when I was sitting there in my pajamas and my fuzzy bunny slippers eviscerating the president on my Facebook page that he would see it, let alone ever read it to me? But Joe Kent's people sent that to him to sort of solidify this is who Heidi St. John is. She doesn't pay her federal taxes. She's been divorced. She's in counseling, all these things. None of it was true except for that. And I became very alarmed. Like, who does that? Who does that for real? Well, at the end of that meeting, President told me that he was not going to be endorsing in the primary. That turned out not to be true. In September, just following my meeting with him, in the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, right in the middle of that, the president endorsed Joe Kent. I immediately got a call from Joe Kent's campaign manager wanting me to concede the race, to get out of the race, because they had tricked me earlier into saying that whoever President Trump endorsed, the rest of us would bow out. I came to find out later that was a prearranged deal. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Absolutely no idea at all. A few months later, I find out that Joe Kent, not only is he not a committed Republican like his talking points suggested, He had actually been a Democrat up until 2021. He did not become a Republican until he moved to Washington state to run for Congress. In the previous election, he voted for Bernie Sanders. He was a Bernie Sanders Democrat. You do not go from voting for Bernie Sanders to being a Republican. And when Republicans in this area learned this information, they basically said this was a lie because Joe Kent said, hey, I was trying to help. It was subterfuge. I was trying to help President Trump by voting for Bernie Sanders. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't believe your story. I don't believe anything you're saying. Mm-hmm. And so on and on it went. There was an event that my husband and I were at with him where I heard him talking about his military service, which he did quite a bit, talking about his military service. And he said that he had been trained to go into communities, find out what the weaknesses were, and turn them against each other, thereby causing these organizations, neighborhoods, wherever he was at, to sort of fall from the inside out. And my husband wisely leaned over to me and said, oh my goodness, Heidi, that's what he's doing. He's turning the Republican Party on itself. And that's exactly what happened. Joe Kent is a chaos agent. President Trump trusted Joe Kent. He believed Joe Kent's story. Joe Kent, in my opinion, was lying to him from the very beginning. Joe Kent was not a conservative. He has never been a conservative. He's a chaos agent, much like Tucker Carlson, much like Candace Owens. And what did Joe Kent do? He lost the run for Congress the first time after the president endorsed him. He ran again then in 2024 and lost again after President Trump endorsed him. And then the president, who told me when I was meeting with him way back in June of 2021, when he realized that I was probably the better candidate, he said, Heidi, what other job could I give to Joe? And right then I knew this is a mission of mercy for him. The President Trump was trying to honor Joe Kent because of the loss of his wife and wanted to give him a job. And eventually that's exactly what he did. He gave him a job as the director of the counterterrorism department high up in the United States government. And how does Kent replace him? By basically quitting in the middle of the night and posting on social media, inferring that President Trump was a stooge for Israel and couldn't make his own decisions, and basically stabbed the president in the back on his way out the door.
Well, he saw a weakness, like you were saying.
He observes he's doing what he was trying to do. Yep.
And now he's going for the jugular to join their ranks. And it was all a coordinated effort coming out. You know, he was already, Tucker and him are friends. We know that. He was on the show with Tucker before in the past. And that's a coordinated effort. And then he goes and makes the rounds with Megyn Kelly. I mean, the wolves in sheep's clothing are growing, but if you have eyes and ears and, you know, two brain cells to rub together, it's obvious who they are and what's going on. And, you know, look, we're in the United States of America, conservatives, you know, we pride ourselves in celebrating our military heroes.
Yes.
But you know, that's not a pass for the rest of your life to do whatever you want. And it does not shield you from criticism. It's fantastic that you served your country, but now you've betrayed your country and the president. And so, you know, one doesn't, you know, make up for the other. And, and, you know, I mean, I just give an example here since we're on this, and I know you got to run, you know, shortly, but, you know, look at this. This is Candace Owens, actually, I wanted to show you. This is her a few years ago. Speaking of, all these people are opportunists, right? The country was built upon Judeo-Christian values. The left routinely mocks Christians, defends anti-Semitism, and yet demands we all shut up about Islam. No, no, and no. We are going to talk about it. When was the last time you heard any of these people ever talk about Islam? You know, they want to paint a picture of, you know, Israel being the great evil in the world. Meanwhile, we have, you know, terrorists that routinely kill Americans, not just abroad, but here at home. So, you know, it's just a little bit shocking to me. I mean, it seems to me that all these people, what they have in common, right? They're opportunists and they're grifters.
Yeah, that's right.
And worse.
And worse. I mean, I think they're enemies of the United States. It wouldn't surprise me at all. In my opinion, Joe Kent is leaking information. I'm sure he's the one who gave those screenshots to Candace Owens, despite what he said to Mark Levin. I listened to his interview with Tucker Carlson. I had to laugh, dude. I literally laughed out loud when Joe said that he saw Tucker, or he saw Charlie in the West Wing of the White House, and that they sort of locked eyes, you know, like star-crossed lovers. And that Charlie said to him, Joe, do whatever you can to keep us out of this war with Iran. We knew very well Charlie's opinion. Charlie would have backed the president I call foul. I do not think that that is what, in my opinion, I think he's lying about that. Listen, this has to be a lesson for conservatives. We need to circle the wagons. We have been giving platforms for far too long to people who did not earn them and do not deserve them, people who we have not done our homework on. Just because someone has a microphone and a podcast, or just because someone served in the United States military, does not make them a patriot or committed to conservative and Republican values. And we are learning a very hard lesson. Joe Kent and the rest of these clowns with microphones are going to be a disaster for us in the midterms. I really believe that what has happened now, because the Democrats love this. Joe Kent is on the front page of the Seattle Times. You know what they're doing in the Seattle Times? They're praising him. When the Seattle Times is praising you, you're not a conservative. He's not a conservative. He's a leftist. And we need to learn our lesson. And if we don't learn it now, we're going to have to learn it in 2028. And by then, who knows what will have happened to the party. It's time to circle the wagons. It's time to do some deep dives into the people that are around us. If someone is a brand new conservative, the moment Joe's voting record was outed, and it was, unlike Candace Owens, Heidi St. John has the receipts. I can show you Joe's voting record. I've got tape of him, because I was out on the road with him, telling huge audiences that he was always a Republican and always voted for Republicans. It's not true. These are lies. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And we have to be willing to say, wow, we got to do better.
Yeah, Joe Kent does seem to lie far too easily. It comes easily and naturally to him, just like Barack Obama and other people out there. And I just want to drive this home before I let you go. You know, you said something that's really important that people take away. We've got to do a better job vetting people, certainly in our movement, because what I'm sick and tired of is people like Joe Kent, Marjorie Taylor Greene. You can add her to the list. A lot of these people that showed up yesterday and just decided to announce that they're MAGA or conservatives. They can't define the movement. I've been fighting this movement virtually my whole life. I've always been, I'm a lifelong conservative. I have skin in this game. I have young children that I care about. And these people just show up and they say, no. For whatever reason, you know, I'm MAGA today. And then they want to stab you in the back and tell you that you're not MAGA. You were never a conservative, Joe. Joe Kent was never a conservative. And what's amazing about this is Donald Trump's not even a conservative. He's just a pragmatist who, and you know, if you're a pragmatist and base reality on results, you know, and that's your objective, is measuring what actually happens, you're going to become a conservative, because conservatism works. What the Democrat Party puts forward fails everywhere it goes spectacularly. And that's the whole point of the Democratic Party, is to create victims. It's to exploit and create a bunch of, victim classes out there, and to tell people that you can't survive without me. I mean, it's like the opposite of Christianity, Heidi, which is, you know, as a Christian, you know, through grace alone, I'm saved. My sins are forgiven because Jesus Christ came and died for them, the Son of God. But the Democrat Party, what do they tell people, Heidi? They tell people you're never absolved. You can vote for a black president twice and you're still a racist. You're irredeemable. But the only thing you can hope to do in this life is continue to support the Democrat Party as they change their position on abortion, on transgenderism, on every item you can think of. And that's your best you can do. Just keep supporting us, and we'll still tell you you're guilty, but that's the best you can do. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very concerned about the future of the conservative movement in America if we don't step up our discernment and start really looking hard into candidates. We shouldn't be allowing people to run for any office if they can't demonstrate that they have a history of conservatism and they understand the movement. If somebody becomes a Christian in our churches, we don't then say, awesome, we've got an opening on the elder board, or we've got an opening, we need a new youth pastor. No, we give them a reflective vest and we say, would you mind helping in the parking lot? That's what we do. And then over time, as they demonstrate, oh, I understand the principles in God's word, I understand the doctrine, the orthodoxy, the theology, then we start giving them positions of influence. But we have been very, very foolish. I heard someone say, it might have been Nick Freitas on his show the other day, when I was talking to him, say, the Democrats are evil, but the Republicans are stupid. And unfortunately, this has been the case. We have got to do better. The Republicans we don't want uniformity. Right. We want to hear new ideas. We absolutely want to see where are we soft? Where can we do better? But we do need unity. Without unity, we can't win anything. And that is what these people are about. They're fracturing the fragile unity within the Republican Party. And I'm praying to the Lord that we don't lose what we need to win the midterms. Because if we do, the Democrats will have their star witness in impeachment number 3 against Donald Trump. And his name is Joe Kent.
Yeah. Thank you, Heidi. And by the way, just share, people, you have a podcast now that's very popular.
Yeah. The
Just
Heidi
tell
St.
people,
John
tell people where to
podcast.
find you. Yep.
Yeah. Anywhere that podcasts are available. We're coming up on 40 million downloads over at the Heidi St. John podcast. I've got a brand new book coming out in the spring. Lots of stuff going on. HeidiSt.John.com.
Well, we'll get you back on about that too. Thank you for joining me, Heidi. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
God bless you. All right. How about that, folks? She's a champion. I've known her for a while, and she's, I mean, you know, a mother of 7. You know, that's a mama bear. I've got another guest coming up in a minute, Nicole Noling, and I'll tell you about her in just a second. But first, let me get to our first sponsor here, American Alternative Assets. Take a drive through any major city after sunset, and you'll notice something strange. Dark windows, empty offices. Right now, 1 in 5 commercial buildings in America is sitting vacant, and nearly $1 trillion in real estate loans are coming due this year. If those buildings stay empty, guess what? The banks take the hit. And those are the same banks where your retirement savings likely sit. There is a new free report called the Ghost Tower Signal that breaks it all down. It uncovers 7 early warning signs that showed up before every major crash since 1929. All 7 are active again right now. This won't make the evening news, obviously, but it could help you protect your savings from what's coming. Download it free at cloutgold.com or call 855-803-GOLD to get your copy mailed to you. So what's so amazing about all of this is that anyone with any common sense understands the believability that Tyler Robinson assassinated Charlie Kirk, somebody radicalized by the left. We've seen this throughout the country, left-wing violence, particularly related to the transgender community. And so it's not unbelievable at all that somebody from that particular community, from the Discord chats, etc., would engage in this type of behavior. This type of thing is happening all around the country in our schools, this radicalization, this hatred towards people that motivates them towards violence against people that they are told that their, you know, speech is violence. Charlie Kirk's words are violence, and therefore you create a permission structure for his assassination. And to demonstrate this to you, I want to bring on a friend of mine, Nicole Noling. Her son and daughter attend the Public Safety Academy in Fairfield, California. And just yesterday, I'll just bring up the picture first. This was left in the classroom. Her son and daughter both want to start a Club America chapter of TPUSA at the high school. They can't get a third person, another person to join them to make it possible, but they are harassed at school because of their affection for Charlie Kirk, their support of Charlie Kirk, their love of Charlie Kirk, how they admire him, and he's dead. And this photo, if you're just listening, I don't know if it says funny or furry, but it's a sniper rifle with a bullet coming out and a stick figure of Charlie Kirk and the bullet heading for his neck. So I want to bring Nicole on to talk about this story and what's going on at her kid's school. Hey, Nicole, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Drew. Thanks again. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm really, I just want to give you a lot of, I really admire you for coming on here because, you know, you're living in radical California. It's not a safe space for outspoken, sane people. And this is happening to your kids, and you are a brave mother who I've met before. And I just want to introduce you as such, that I'm someone who admires you deeply and wants to give you a lot of respect for doing this. So tell the audience, you know, give them the background of this story, you know, what happened. Your kids attend a public school, tell them their ages and exactly what happened.
Thank you so much for that introduction. That means a lot. Yeah, so we essentially, you know, I have no platform. I'm a conservative Christian, and my husband and I have our 4 kids, and our oldest 2, when we enrolled them, we wanted a more kind of balanced, secure, supervised, safe environment. Public Safety Academy, it is a public school, but their standards and their discipline is structured differently, where we felt like our kids wouldn't encounter so much of the negativity and left-wing views and indoctrination in our other public high schools around, because we are in California, as you said, and it's so intense here. It's amazing. But my son and daughter, as you mentioned, they'd been interested in wanting to start a chapter. they got to know Charlie through listening to a lot of his college debates where he would just do an open mic. And that's actually what drew them to him, is the fact that he wasn't afraid. He loved people genuinely, to the point of being willing to put himself out there and let anybody ask questions, let anybody disagree with him, and not respond in hate in return, even if they disagreed with him. And my son and daughter have really received a lot of negative backlash and negative feedback from a lot of the students in their school, from just simple harassment, telling them that it's stupid, that anybody who supports Charlie Kirk is racist, which I find hilarious because my youngest son is Black. So don't know where that comes in, but that just shows, like you said, it's indoctrination. They spew out what they hear in social media, and sadly what they hear a lot of adults saying, and it goes unchecked with the adults. You know, there's very few predominant voices like Charlie was that would speak out and push back against a lot of the theories and ideologies that are really hurting our young people today, really bad. And anyway, so it doesn't matter to them, like, you know, that his sibling is Black, that we have a mixed family from a variety of ethnic backgrounds. All my kids are adopted. None of that matters. It's, oh, you support Charlie Kirk, you're automatically a racist. And, you know, my son in particular, I'm so proud of him. He did really well just expressing himself, trying to dialogue with them, and brushing off a lot of the negativity. And when it was just the simple stuff, he would brush it off. And then it came to a point where, when that wasn't stopping him, they started doing stuff like you see now, where they would start trying to group up together to intensify their intimidation, and write notes like that picture. The word that's scribbled out, we couldn't tell what it said. When I brought it to the principal, she tried to figure it out. I don't know if that was initially his name, to insinuate that, oh, any kid, you know, or he supports Charlie Kirk, maybe he should be next. And they thought better of it, you know, because that is a direct threat. So I'm not sure what that scribbled out word's about, but you're right, it does say furry sniper. So these kids aren't necessarily stupid by any means. You know, they hear some of the details, but they go along with the narrative no matter what the facts are. And that's what's scary. Like you're saying, the information's out there, but the facts don't matter. They can still maintain their support for an ideology that doesn't make any sense. And as a parent and a mom, that's scary, that it's trickled down, not just at the college level. I know the universities and college level gets a lot of attention, but you guys, it's in our elementary schools, it's in our junior highs, and it is very evident in our high schools, like very strongly.
Yeah. So this was left in the classroom, right, of your 15-year-old son?
Yes.
And you had a meeting with with some of the leaders at the high school, vice principal, whatever else, and so far they're going to look into it, right? They tell you?
Yeah, my son let me know when I picked him up. They called him in by third period. I went in this morning, and they ended up talking to him a few hours later. So that was some interesting urgency behind the matter, or lack thereof, I should say. But they did look into it. I'm not sure if they called the other boys down to figure out, like, what was your actual intention behind this. And I'm hoping they will inform me of some kind of resolution. Usually that's the other thing with schools, especially in California. They do not give parents information. They try to keep parents in the dark with a lot of information. So finding out what the resolution of this will be, I probably will be very limited in hearing about, you know, what facts they found out or what they can do about it. So, you know, as a parent, that's another scary thing, is the state essentially makes it where the schools don't have to tell the parents much at all.
That's right. Whether it's related to the gender theory and transitioning or choosing your own pronouns, they leave the parents in the dark completely, because that's the way to fully indoctrinate. You know, you can't indoctrinate somebody if there's a bulwark, which might be the parent, to prevent that from happening and intervene. And so they want to happen in the darkness of night. And I just can't believe that this is happening at a pub. I mean, I can believe it. Unfortunately, we saw people celebrating this around the country. But that this would be left, you know, in a classroom, you know, taunting your son because he supports Charlie Kirk, as if it's funny that someone was assassinated. Well, Nicole, we'll have to get you back on here to update us when you have more on what's happening. But I just wanted people to hear from a parent, you know, that this is happening in their schools, and the type of stuff that is festering throughout this country and in homes and in schools. So, Nicole, thanks for coming on. God bless you.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk soon.
My son wanted to shout out to you guys real quick, and my daughter, just to say,
oh, yeah.
Come over here. They absolutely adore Charlie and his legacy. And from all of us to their family, we love you. And thank you so much for what you guys are doing.
Well, Michael, I've got this coming in the mail for you. All right, this book on Charlie Kirk that I wrote, that should give you courage and hope, brother, because you know, you're a special kid, and you're courageous what you're doing, and you're on the right side of history. And people like me and millions of people out there support you, and you are the future. You know, you are a future Charlie Kirk yourself. So just hang in there, okay?
Say thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
She's the one that was trying to start the TPUSA chapter. So if you guys could keep her in your thoughts and pray that God will encourage some other kids, you know, to be brave and stand up. You know, unfortunately, it's falling in their lap. And at a younger and younger age, they're having to choose to be brave and courageous and fight battles that the adults should be fighting.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they want to speak. They might be, you know, camera shy, but I mean, if you want, I do know some people in the Charlie Kirk orbit and others. I mean, do you want to talk for a minute about what you're trying to do and why you want to start this Club America chapter?
Go ahead. Why did you want to start it?
It's your moment. Let's go.
So I got into a lot of like debate stuff about things that I really were passionate about, like abortion, and like I'm very interested in other people's views on things. I'm very indecisive. So I got into the whole like what a debate is and all the things that came with it. And then my mom showed me some videos about Charlie Kirk, and that's how I immediately got hooked in watching all of his videos. And not long after I really got interested and passionate about it, then I came home to find out that he got assassinated.
It was about a month in. She had been watching his videos and asking me about debate and how she could do more of that and debate with people that had different views. And Charlie really influenced her in a huge way, and my son. But she's the debater of the family. And it just broke my heart that after about a month of her really leaning in and getting a good grasp on how to voice her opinion in a loving way, but with truth, that thank God for technology and videos, that there's so much debate, and that, you know, Charlie left us such a beautiful legacy. She has plenty to go off of still, but
well, one final question for you. So what's the holdup? So you want to start a Club America chapter, TPUSA, at the school, and you've been trying for some time. So what's stopping you so far?
So originally I got into all the details of TPUSA, got connected with like everything that's involved in it, and I went through all the guidelines and I needed 3 people. And I thought, well, that's easy. I already have my brother. Now I only need to find one other person. And I thought it can't be that hard to find at least one other person who supports Charlie Kirk and is passionate about it as I am. And so I started looking around the school, starting with my own grade, of course.
Didn't you email? You sent out a blast
I sent out an email to, I have a large friend group, so I thought maybe one of them could possibly be interested in it just to start. And they either said they're not willing to put that kind of effort into anything, or they're just not interested in it, or they don't support that kind of thing, or they don't want to put themselves out there. And then I started with just asking random people around the school, since it's 6th through 12th grade, or 5th through 12th grade. And once people found out that I was passionate about that, they started coming at me with like, oh, if you like Charlie Kirk, you are racist towards immigrants and all that. And then after that, nobody told me that they were interested in it, and I can't find a single person who will be willing to put themselves out there, put effort into it, and be passionate about Charlie Kirk and his legacy.
Once words get out, you're labeled and people know, and then they all kind of, like I said, find a way to group together and ostracize you and isolate you.
Well, look, don't give up. I think that you can hopefully find another person here. I hope that the takeaway for you is that you realize how special and unique you and your brother are, that you are the lone 2 courageous people at an entire public high school that are willing to be yourselves. But, pray over it, and then, get in touch with me, and we'll see what we can figure out too. But there's got to be a third person out there, but even if you can't find it to do it officially, there are unofficial ways that you can still pursue the same avenues of enlightenment that are going to help you grow and this country improve, and those around you, you can continue to influence. So I'm really impressed, and you give me hope in this next generation. There are 3 people you're describing, the lazy, the hateful, and I guess just the neutral that don't have it in them, but you aren't in that category. So good for you. Your mom's doing something right.
It's God, my friend. He's got a hold of these guys and is doing amazing things that I just encourage and guide and let God do his thing. But thank you so, so much. I am blessed. They are great kids. And I love that they have people that have a platform, like you, Dinesh D'Souza, some of the very awesome, consistent voices out there. And that, as a parent, gives me a lot of hope that they're not just hearing it from me, but they've got a lot of people out there that have done the work, done the homework, and reiterate the same consistent message. So thank you so much for what you do. And TPUSA is amazing, and I could not be more grateful for the inspiration they've provided to my 2 kids. So
yeah, well, we'll keep moving forward together, and y'all have my unyielding support, and I'm not that far away, so we'll keep going together. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, my friend. It was good to talk to you.
All right. God bless you guys. Talk soon. Wow. That's the first time I've ever done that on this show, to have, that was powerful to me, to have these young kids, the daughter in particular, that's articulate and able to express what she wants, and supportive mom. And it's also astounding, isn't it? You can't get a Club America chapter started, at your school. You need 3 people, and only the siblings are willing to have the courage to do that. But those are special kids. So I want to bring Scott McKay in. He's the only frequent guest I've ever had on this show. That's how esteemed I hold him. He'll have to correct me, as he does every time when I bring him up, but he's, I think, senior editor at the American Spectator. I botch it every single time. I think it's senior editor, and he's the publisher of The Hayride, an amazing author as well. But I want to bring Scott on here, and I'm going to bring you on now, Scott, and I want to go through all these different elements. And Scott, I don't know. I'm not tech savvy. I don't know why I can't get, the screens to be, equal size, but it's fine.
Filling for now. It's fine. No problem.
I defer to the importance and significance of my guests, I guess, that I make myself so small in your presence.
There you go.
So look, so you missed it in the beginning. I had Heidi St. John on. She ran against Joe Kent in 2022 in the congressional race. They were in the same, we talked about this before, I think offline, and she lost to him. She told me a lot of crazy stories I didn't know about Joe Kent and the backroom deals to get Trump's endorsement without telling her, and the sabotage that happens in politics.
Yeah.
But it was very clear from what she said that Joe Kent was always a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah. Look, Joe Kent's a grifter. It's pretty obvious that he is. And he ran a really good scam on a lot of people. He had some, I think, credentials that enabled that. But I mean, this guy was a Bernie bro in 2020. Okay. I mean, like, he's not, this is not somebody who's like, anything like a movement conservative or anybody, like a guy who really believes the things that folks on the right actually believe. And he's all over the map, particularly like on Iran. The guy has said he's taken pretty much every position you could possibly take about whether Iran is a threat and whether we should do something about Iran. And, all of a sudden he's, the truth teller on the Iran war. And look, whether he's telling the truth now, okay, it's not even really the issue. The fact of the matter is Joe Kent was a leaker. There are people that connect him to the Signalgate scandal from last year. He was part of that. And, he'd had his access to classified intel cut off as a result of the fact that he was a leaker. Tends to happen to you when they know that you're a leaker. They don't tell you anything. And, the word is Tulsi Gabbard, who basically was his boss, was told, hey, look, you need to fire this guy. And she was kind of back and forth over whether she was going to go ahead and do it. And this guy saw the writing on the wall. Looks like maybe he saw some opportunities that he could get out of government and maybe make some money or gain clout or whatever. And so he immediately jumps in to this sort of, anti-war truth teller pose that he's done, goes on Tucker Carlson immediately. And then there's this kind of unnatural amount of retweets of all of these different things involving Joe Kent. And he turns into an overnight sensation when almost nobody could have told you who the National Counterterrorism Center director was before Joe Kent resigned.
It was hilarious to your point. I didn't have time to listen to the whole thing, but I tried to listen to his interview on the Mark Levin show. And Mark Levin asked him basically, I think, if the president knew who he was. And Joe Kent, probably the first honest answer of his life, was stumped. He's like, well, he knows of me.
Yeah.
But,
right.
He doesn't really, whatever. But, actually, at the end of the day, Trump endorsed him in the Washington, congressional race and everything else. But he wasn't spending time. He wasn't in Trump's inner circle. He's not as important. He's not as important as he wants you to believe he is, although he was at a high position. I don't take that or say that's not true. But I want to walk you through something with the audience. So get this whole collusion going on here. So you got Blumenthal, Max Blumenthal, the son of Sidney Blumenthal, who is the bag man for the Clinton family for a long time.
Sidney Blumenthal is one of the dirtiest individuals ever to be involved in American politics.
That's right. So Max Blumenthal runs something called the Gray Zone, which is an anti-Semitic rag. That's what it's devoted to doing. Max Blumenthal is an anti-Semite, obviously.
Which is kind of strange, but
yes,
it is.
and Joe, exactly. Blumenthal, I hate the Jews.
What are you doing, with that crowd? And the answer is, well, these are my peeps, I guess, some sort of way. Don't try to make sense of it because you can't. But
But so Blumenthal, so Joe Kent's new wife, because his first wife was tragically killed in combat and in war by ISIS. And so his new wife, though, is associated with the Gray Zone. Right. She's a lefty. And I want people to understand how this is a coordinated effort, because let me bring this up for you first. I brought this up for Heidi St. John. This is Candace Owens, okay?
Yeah.
A little while ago. This country was built upon Judeo-Christian values. The left routinely mocks Christians, defends anti-Semitism, and yet demands we all shut up about Islam. No, we're not going to talk about it. That's Candace.
Hey, that's
where'd that Candace go?
Makes you wonder what happened, right? Like, 7 years is a long time, I guess.
So she used Blumenthal in Gray Zone because he broke this stupid story about the Hamptons, and there was a meeting in the Hamptons with Charlie Kirk and other people. And so he broke this story to try and claim, he tried to build up this story that, the Jews were coming for Charlie Kirk and there was this big rift. And certainly it's true that people around Charlie Kirk were actually anti-Semitic and trying to turn him against Israel. And he had very reasonable.
He had some misgivings about Gaza and the premise of the Iran war. That's true. Okay.
Yep.
But if you're the Israelis, and you're over here trying to talk to Charlie and get him back on side here, and you can't, then you call some of his donors to Turning Point USA, okay, and you try and turn those off. You don't murder the guy. Like the return on investment from murdering Charlie Kirk, if you're Israel, is nil. It's absolutely nil, okay? Your friends are people who like Charlie Kirk. If you murder Charlie Kirk, they're not going to be your friends anymore.
Well,
is that obvious to just me, or is it obvious to everybody? Right?
No, I mean,
there is no ROI. You defund Turning Point USA. That's how you express your negativity toward Charlie Kirk being mean to you. If you're Israel, you don't murder the guy and take the blame for murdering the guy. Right? That's
exactly.
These are smart people, okay? They've survived most of the world trying to get at them for the last 65, 70 years or whatever, because they're smart. And doing something like this is not smart. This is the kind of stuff that the Iranians would do rather than Israel. But it's also really the kind of stuff that the trans/furry/hypersexual deviant crowd does, because they do it once a week. You get these high-profile murderers coming from, like the Nashville shooter, and I could go on and on and on. This happens all the time with people who are wrapped up in the hardcore alphabet people, trans crowd. They kill people all the time. You have somebody who confessed to it in front of his folks, have the weapon, all the rest of this stuff, okay? And all of a sudden, we're going to try to get this guy off because the Israelis did it? I can't imagine anybody would buy this. It's the stupidest narrative of all time. And it's not even aimed at, the truth about Charlie Kirk. What it's aimed at is to blow up the right in advance of the midterm elections, when the Democrats, they think they've got an opportunity here, but they have nothing to run on. Literally nothing to run on. So it's all about, let's start a bunch of fires in the enemy's camp. And this is the best way to do it, because the absolute worst thing that has happened to the Democrat Party from the standpoint of optics and narrative in the last however many years you want to go back was Charlie Kirk's assassination, because it proved almost conclusively, if it's even possible to, that the left is a bunch of maniacs that can't be trusted with anything like political power over their fellow man, right? And so blowing up the national understanding of Charlie Kirk's assassination, which is this proves that the left can't debate anybody, that they're intolerant of opinions that are not aligned with theirs, that they will not brook any opposition or dissidence to their control over higher education. Okay. You could go through a whole list of things that assassinating Charlie Kirk basically proved. Political violence comes from the left and not the right, which they've been trying to convince the American people for 20 years is the opposite of the case. And all of a sudden it blows up in their face. They had to destroy this. The weird thing is that they found people on the right who were willing to play along. And my question is, how much money did that take?
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, this is what I'm going to pull together for you. So Joe Kent, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, all these different people are all connected. So
I never heard of this guy Ian Carroll until like today, basically. And like,
well, he used to be an Uber driver, and then he became an influencer, and then Candace Owen made him famous because he's willing to go out there and say, "Kill the Jews, I love Hitler." You know, that's his whole shtick. But so one of the people that Candace Owen spent all of her time, and still is, just spreading conspiracies, promising receipts that never arrive, right? Because she's a liar and a fraud. Yeah. And so one of them was she brought this guy named Mitch Snow on her show to talk about this. I don't even know how to pronounce it, Fort Huaca or whatever, where, Mitch Snow claimed he was there to get his medical records, and he saw Erica Kirk at a motel, and he saw the head of Charlie Kirk security there. And it's this whole conspiracy. This meeting was happening, something about insiders trying to kill Charlie Kirk. Anyway, this is what she put out there. She brought this Mitch Snow guy on here to be the guy that would tell this story to prop up this narrative. Guess where she got Mitch Snow from? Joe Kent. Listen to this. Well, listen to this first.
I told you the truth based off of my discussions with Charlie about where his headspace was at when it came to Israel. I didn't need Joe Kent for that. I didn't even know Joe Kent at all, had never had a single communication with Joe Kent until after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. That is.
Okay, so after Charlie Kirk's assassinated, she gets in touch with Joe Kent. Get this. Joe Kent vetted this Mitch Snow for her. So she reached out, or Joe Kent reached out. Somehow they got connected. And this Mitch Snow guy that she had on her show, Joe Kent offered to vet for her before he came on. Now, this is a small scandal, in my opinion, Scott. You are in a high-level intelligence position, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. You're a Senate-confirmed high-level intelligence position with access to sensitive classified information. And just in your spare time, you're going to go and vet this Mitch Snow guy for a podcaster?
I mean, it's weird. If nothing else, it's weird. Like that, I guarantee you that had never been done before.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the kind of innovation we're looking for in American government, but it doesn't make any sense. And then, little by little, I can't even say that I'm surprised, because there's a lot of similarities in terms of character between this and the Trump-Russia thing, right? The basis of which was the Steele dossier, and the central allegation in that involved, hookers and urine in a Moscow hotel room. And you're just like, what? Nobody would ever believe that. Why is that even being passed around as something that was, potentially true, when everybody who knew Donald Trump knew he was a germaphobe and he would never, ever, ever engage in something like that. And yet they threw it out there anyway. And for whatever reason, it managed to stick, at least among people in the legacy corporate media. And they were like, oh, yeah, this is true, right? And we'll wash it through the FBI. The FBI is looking into this, so obviously it's true. It's like, no, the FBI looks into garbage all the time. But you guys are trying to bootstrap this into some sort of scandal, which they were able to do. And this has all of the same hallmarks. The idea that the guy who killed Charlie Kirk is not the guy who killed Charlie Kirk, and it was the Israelis who did it. And we're going to use people supposedly on the right to push this.
Yeah. Well, there are brain trusts.
Why would Candace Owens, who loved Charlie Kirk, why would she say this kind of stuff? And it's like, yeah, why indeed? It doesn't make it true that Candace Owens says it.
Exactly. Well, these brain trusts are claiming that, they're the virtuous ones. I mean, it's so outrageous. They're trying to make Joe Kent a hero when he's a traitor. He's undermining the Trump administration.
Yeah. I don't know that he's a traitor, but he's a leaker. And you're not supposed to leak things when you run the National Counterterrorism Center. You're supposed to be a guy who's pretty much an iron box. And you don't tell anybody anything that they're not supposed to know. And yet he's leaking all kinds of stuff to the media, so much so that the National Counterterrorism Director had his classified access removed. But I'm supposed to believe things he says about Charlie Kirk's assassination. And
look at what he's saying. Look at what he's saying. He's saying that, he doesn't trust the FBI and Kash Patel. And so he was trying to go off on his own, which is not his duty in his role, to go off and do his own investigation that would support basically Candace Owens and what she's doing. And Kash Patel obviously and rightly said, go F yourself. Go F yourself, you lunatic. No. And so now he comes out and says that's, evidence. He's just the good guy. No, you know what's happening right now, Scott? All these brilliant people that are the anti-Israel Jew haters, they think that, Tyler Robinson was framed by the FBI and the Trump administration, which of course defies logic anyway. But you know what they're actually in practice doing? They're trying to frame Israel for what happened.
And then, collateral damage to this is Kash Patel's girlfriend, who they've gone after and accused her of being a Mossad agent. She's a country singer. The Mossad recruits country singers now.
No, it's brilliant, Scott. They were 10 steps ahead. They knew they had to make her a country singer and then establish the meeting, just like Charlie and Erica, she's a secret Jew person and what?
Yeah, the thing is, and if you pull this back to 40,000 feet, this is all enabled by the fact that we have been lied to by people that we trusted in this country for, 75 years at least. And the reservoir of trust for authority figures, whether it's, the FBI or the legacy corporate media or the White House or Congress or, all of these different institutions that society is based on, we've got to have truth and integrity in these, and they've all been exposed as not having it. Well before Trump came along or Kash Patel came along, or we just had this whole thing about Robert Mueller dying. I mean, this guy was a scumbag, right? I mean, he absolutely was a hitman for the deep state and ran the FBI for a very long time and was one of the main people, I think, that destroyed the FBI's credibility. You've had for a long time, a progressively worse degradation of the institutions we need to trust as a society. And we are at such a low level of trust at this point that these things sprout up like mushrooms. And it's really difficult to put away the ones that are really damaging and especially untrue, because who can call them out as untrue, right? Because everybody's under suspicion. And so it's really easy to go as wild as you want to go on something like it wasn't, Tyler Robinson that shot Charlie Kirk. It was the Jews that did it. Because if you say that's ridiculous, oh, you're getting paid by the Jews. And it's well, who's paying you?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think there's any positive resolution to this kind of thing when it just devolves into a whole bunch of name calling and accusations. But the alternative to engaging in all that is to stand still and let these people, lie like rugs and push things into the bloodstream that, are clearly not true. And the only way you can filter this, at least that I've found, is, you ask the old Roman question, right? Cui bono? Who benefits? Mm-hmm. Who benefits from the narrative being forced onto the American people that Charlie Kirk was not assassinated by the guy that assassinated Charlie Kirk? What do you get from that? And the answer is the people who benefits it's the left, and it's the Democrat Party. And it's whoever the Democrat Party is working for these days. And there's a pretty long list of people that are likely subjects for that, whether it's drug cartels or Chinese communists or globalists in London or whatever you want to do. That's the question to ask is, okay, why is this happening? Well, who's it benefit?
Yeah,
of course. I'm sure that's an entire, probably weeks worth of podcasts right there.
Yeah. Well, we got a couple minutes left. I want to respond to Abu on here. I can't imagine what he thinks. Abu, he says Charlie was leaving the pro-Israel cause. That's why they went out to kill him, and he was against the Iran war. Abu, I would like to explain to you that actually It was a far left, trans furry guy who was indoctrinated by radical lunatics on the left to support and promote mental illness in schools about gender theory, who claimed that Charlie Kirk's words were violence against the trans community. That's who killed him. He was killed because he spoke the truth about the fact that there are two biological sexes and transgender people are mentally ill. That's why he was killed.
Right.
Thank you, Abu.
Yeah, it was the things that Charlie Kirk said out front and open and often that riled people up to kill him.
By the way,
it wasn't like sudden misgivings about Israel that he didn't even really express on his podcast or in speeches. Like, Charlie was very reserved about the things that he, where he was evolving on Israel. He was like, he didn't come out and bash the Israelis on his podcast. You can't find a lot of video on that.
No,
you can find a ton of video of him debating, the trans people that would show up on these college campuses and, well, you're hateful and whatever. And he's like, I hope you get the help you need. Like, that's how hateful he was. Yeah. Like they had no response to that other than to get a gun and take him out. Okay. Yeah. Like, which one is easier to believe? Right.
Yeah.
Well,
let me get this straight.
Across the world that could have turned off funding of his from, the Adelsons or whoever, says, no, let's murder him instead. Or it's the dysfunctional lunatic who had a rifle and bragged about doing it and then confessed it to his family.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the other thing is, for 5 years or more, he was getting death threats from people in the trans community and on the left. There were actually, I know,
who regularly go off.
Yeah.
Okay?
And I know people.
It's not like you just can't believe that the trans people would go and murder somebody for no good reason.
Yeah. They've never done
it all the time. It happens once a week. Okay. Like, this is like, how is this so hard to put to bed? We know what happened. Okay. And I mean, you can get more clicks talking about conspiracy theories, but pick something else.
Yeah.
Pick something else. There's lots of stuff out there that might even be true, unlike this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll give you the final word. Wrap it up in 30, 45 seconds.
Well, look, I'll just say again, go look at who benefits from people on the right tearing each other apart over the identity of the assassin of the guy who really did a lot to pull us together on the right. Okay. Like, Charlie was the best organizer that the right has had in the last 30 or 40 years. And, the people who benefit from Charlie's voice being silenced, okay, it's not Israel. Okay. It's the left in this country. And, not to do the whole collective guilt thing, but it was somebody on the left that murdered Charlie Kirk. It wasn't the Israelis. Plain and simple.
Yeah, it is that simple. Well, Scott, thank you for joining me today, man, on short notice. I appreciate it. Always. You're
look, I had to do it. So, guys, so you'll know, Melissa McKinsey and I do the Spectacle podcast for the American Spectator. And Melissa was out last week, and Drew came in, and we did 3 segments that were pretty awesome, actually. I went back and watched them, and Drew was on fire, man. He was so good. So, like, it's a real pleasure to come on with you on your show, because you really helped us out last week.
Oh, God bless you, brother. Well, I'll talk to you soon, no doubt.
Yes, sir. Take care, guys.
All right. What a lineup, man. Heidi St. John, Nicole Noling, Scott McKay, all-star show. Look, it's obvious. You can recognize the op when you see it. It's obviously a coordinated effort. All these people are intermingled together. They've been working together for a long time. Joe Kent vetting somebody, Mitch Snow, who's a lunatic, for the Candace Owens show. And then they amplify one another. And then you have Blumenthal over here at Gray Matter, or whatever it's called, the Gray Zone, I guess it's called, that she's actively, reposting and stuff in the past. Nick Fuentes, the whole group. It's obviously what's going on. Do not fall for it. It's ridiculous. We know that the greatest threat to this country is not the Jews in Israel. It's Islamism, and it's Democrats. And that's what Charlie understood, and that's what we understood when we reelected Donald Trump in 2024. To destroy that movement and burn it down to the ground right now is unbelievably stupid, and it defies logic. We do have a common enemy, and it's not Israel. So anyway, thank you for tuning in today, folks. I hope you'll share, especially about those young kids who are so brave. How about them, huh? Talking about their love for America. But this is Drew Allen, your Millennial Minister of Truth. God bless you all. And until next time.